In the lead up to the weekend, the story so far made a bunch of huge announcements that I'm very excited about. Being a fan of them, I'm sure other fans have been very excited about as well. They've got the tour over the summer coming up with A Day to Remember and 4 Years Strong. They have an album release coming out in June, which is very exciting to hear for a band that really hasn't released much music in the last 5-ish years. But I mean, the most immediate news that they released was their new single, Letterman. I'm just gonna do a little bit of a review on that and get into that and kind of tell you my thoughts. As a fan of the story so far, I've definitely liked all of the music of all of the eras of them. They've definitely trended in a direction that's a little bit poppier, a little bit softer with the last album, but that's not necessarily bad. Growing as a band, life changes, things like that. I think that you have to be able to try to appreciate that as a fan of a band like that. But that being said, as long as the music's still there, it can work. So my first thoughts on Letterman are that it's just, actually I'll tie it into Big Blind a little because I feel like that's the best way to do it, to kind of think of them together, because of that those two are coming out as kind of our lead up into the album. So I think that Big Blind, you heard the perfect mix of the story so far, combining the old sound and the old kind of finger pointing angsty element with this newer, poppier, a little bit softer, more melodic, whatever you want to call it, aspect. I think they found the perfect line between that with Big Blind. Letterman, on the other hand, is a little bit more trending to the proper dose side, and I know some fans might hear that and maybe get a little bit upset. I know there are some of the diehard early fans that didn't love that album quite as much. I didn't love that album quite as much as the other albums. Not to say it was bad, or just the other albums were so good. But I believe that it trends a little bit more in that direction. But it's definitely not some soft, just pop sellout song. There's a lot of room that the story so far uses on it. Because when you compare the two, Big Blind had like that jolt of energy, just that wall of sound that hit you right away with a big riff, big drums and all that. Letterman takes a little bit longer to kind of ease into. And I think that's exactly what they were going for with this single dropping at the same time as the album release. It left me wanting a little bit more. And that kind of means that I'm kind of anticipating moving forward with the album. But on its own, like as a standalone song, I've listened to it a lot more. The first time I wasn't sure about it. I've listened to it a lot more. And the more I listen to it, actually, it's really grown on me. It's got a really nice kind of smooth sound that kind of drives the song, but allows it to be elevated. Parker elevates the song very well with his voice. He's captured a great in-between realm of kind of a newer, softer, more singing style, but also a little bit of that bite to his voice. The guitars, they're doing their thing, the melodic energy. The drums are doing just enough flair to kind of bring attention to them, but also just drive the song. And I think it's exactly what the band was looking for a single to come out with an announcement like this. I think that they want to pique people's interest and pique their ears, but there's a little bit of something there that is telling fans there's more to come, there's more on the horizon. But I think this song shows a good, I hesitate to say stylistic change, but a good stylistic evolution almost, where they're capturing both those worlds between Big Blind and between Letterman. They're capturing both those worlds in this little spot, and I think if they can keep the album between that spot, they can have some songs that are a little bit heavier, trending to Big Blind, and they can have some songs that are a little bit softer, trending in the direction of Letterman. I think the album will come together really well, and with that, beyond the music, I think that it will come together very well in terms of just the writing process and all the other ideas behind it. I mean, you gotta remember, this band's been 5 years since they released an album. There's been a lot of turmoil in the band. I mean, when you think about the kind of songs that they were writing before, like what different stories of Parker's relationships, what he was going through, and all those things, you gotta think that in 6 years' time, that things have changed a little bit, and if the album does have a little bit more of that evolution sound, at the end of the day, that's something that I hope that fans can accept, and I hope that it's something that they enjoy, because then it shows that there's just this evolution from that kind of angsty place with that the turmoil and that emotional aspects that all the fans needed and that the band needed to drive their music. But there's kind of this album could represent a crossover, a little bridge for fans and the band to travel over together to a new era of just a little bit more hopeful, kind of put the heavy gloom in the past. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see if they can kind of straddle that line between the heavy and between the softer. And I'm curious how they're going to be able to convey that to fans and what the fan reception is going to be. But I'm excited for it. I'm definitely going to be looking into going to one of their shows over the summer. I'm excited for it. And just on another note, if you like this kind of content, I try to do music covers like this very often. for all different styles. So if you have anything specific that you want to kind of get a second opinion on or a little bit more insight on, drop a song in the comments that's maybe a recent release, and I'll get to it when I can.